During the famine era, I found a girl, but 300 years later, during the great war between immortals and demons, she was defeated by her, who had become a demon lord. The thread passes through the heart. She stepped on my body, which was like a dead dog. Manhua Yang, when you framed me back then, did you ever think things would turn out like this? But what she didn't know was that I had willingly died at her hands. I made a deal with the system. As long as I completed the task, I could return to Blue Star. Because of this, 300 years ago, I stole the immortal sword and defected to the sect to achieve the immortal lord realm, but she was locked in the sect and sent to a dungeon, living a life worse than death. Otherwise, with my cultivation, how could I possibly escape the imperial physician sword I personally cultivated? Standing before me is the world's only female demon grandson, Frost on Lua Ridge, my former junior sister. Feeling my own life gradually slip away, I just smiled bitterly. Do this. Is it really worth it? She said nothing. Instead, he pulled the hating sword out of my body. Blood splattered all over her face. She stomped me down to the ground, looking down at me from above. Those eyes that were once as clear as a stream. But now, it feels as if 1,000 years of ice have formed. But in the deepest part of that ice layer, there was a faint, almost imperceptible tremor. Manhua Yang, do you have anything else to say? I opened my mouth. His mouth was covered in blood. The system's mission required dying by his sword. You cannot say anything that might shake his mind. Otherwise, the mission fails. Unable to return to Blue Star. So I chose to keep quiet. He crouched down. Her slender fingers pinched my chin. He forced my face toward him, forcing me to look into his eyes. Manhua Yang, I'll ask you one last time. There was clearly murderous intent on his face, but his voice was trembling. You really don't want to say it. Of course I know what he wants to hear. He wanted to hear me say sorry. I want to hear me admit that the betrayal back then was wrong. He wanted me to tell him in person. Those years I was sincere. The unsightly curve of the sea of crying. He waited a long silence for a long time. In the end, his expression turned completely cold. All right, since you won't say anything, then never say it. I looked at my own blood on the tip of my sword. Time seemed to return to the past. It was an era of snow disasters. Mounting wind caves, rivers flow without interruption. Countless low-level cultivators and mortals froze to death in this long winter. Frozen corpses were everywhere along the roadside. In the face of this epochal catastrophe, everyone can barely protect themselves. At that time, I had only crossed into this world for less than 3 days. According to the system's guidance, I found a thatched hut by the village road, which was about to collapse. The moment the door opened, I saw it. A small figure curled up in the corner of the house, wrapped in a piece of burlap full of holes. It's too small. So small that I could hold it whole with one hand. Covered in holes and scars. The breath was so faint it was almost imperceptible. I crouched down. When you hold it in your arms, it is as light as a dead leaf. Don't be afraid. I'll take you away. The little girl showed no reaction, but her hand was at the moment I picked her up. Instinctively, he clutched the corner of my shirt, clenched tightly. It was like a drowning man grabbing the last floating tomb. Later, I learned about his background. His name was Luo Lingshuang. He was born without a mother. The villagers also drove him out, a 5-year-old child. In this lower layer world, which is even more ruthless than the aura of cultivation, every day, they compete with wild dogs for food, sleeping in a haystack by the roadside. I don't know how he survived until the day I appeared. Perhaps fate wanted him to suffer a bit more. To support him, I went to Xiantian Sect to work as an outer sect laborer, sweeping floors, gathering firewood, hauling snack mines, clean the pill furnace and feed the zero beast. He did all kinds of work, 12 hours in one day. Besides sleeping, he was working. The pay was pitifully small. He barely managed to buy some coarse grains and cloth. But Luo Lingshuang had grown up. She grew from 5 to 10. She grew from 10 to 15. She became a graceful and beautiful young woman. She had excellent prodigies, much stronger than me. I was valued by an elder. He went from being a menial servant to an outer disciple. 10 years later, he entered the inner sect. She followed me. He also joined the Xiantian sect. She became my junior sister. Those days, it was I who lived in this world for 300 years. The best days. My thoughts were pulled back to reality. Regret arises from the sword that falls. But at the last moment, I noticed a detail. His hand holding the item was shaking. At the moment the fierce sword pierced through my body. His eyes flashed with a brief glint of emptiness. But in the next moment, he regained his force. My body began to dissipate. On this blood-stained battlefield, behind them, only the screams of the righteous army slaughtered by demonic cultivators remained. Before losing sight, the last scene I saw, it was his silhouette. Loneliness is just like 300 years ago. The one standing on the cold sky wind. My junior sister waited for me for a whole day and night. Sorry. In the end, those 3 words were never spoken out loud. Let's go back 300 years. It's my 3rd year entering the inner sect of Xiantian sect. Back then, his cultivation had already reached the late stage of the golden core stage. Among his peers, he was considered one of the best. Lorraine is faster than me. He entered the door late, but his talent crushed everyone else. In just a few years, he had reached the peak of the golden core stage. There are faint signs of a breakthrough cause. Everyone in the sect said, he is a once-in-a-century genius. I was secretly delighted, although he still wore a composure on the surface. The eldest senior brother's dignified demeanor. Inside, he was actually quite pleased. She was the little girl I raised herself. During that period, Luo Lingshuang was arranged. The sect's treasure pavilion was one of the first to be found. This was the trust and important use the sect had given him. New tasks released. Mission details. and secretly seized the supreme treasure of the Xiantian sect and gave him the sword first. Mission description: uniting with demonic forces, create chaos. Seizing the opportunity, he stole the Xian sword. This sword is the host, an essential item for late-stage cultivation. Rewards: cultivation directly advanced to the peak of Yuan Eagle, adding the advanced cultivation method Huantianju. Punishment: rejection. They will never be able to return to Blue Star. What a joke. I am an inner disciple of the Xiantian sect. Luo Lingchuang's senior brother. You want me to be a traitor? System. I refused. Rejection. Extremely unstable. Currently, it is being posted everywhere. Missing person notice. She is in my mind. A picture was projected. My aunt stood on the street. Her haggard face was streaked with tears, holding a stack in his hand. A missing person notice reflecting my photo. She was caught in the wind and snow. Stickers were pasted one by one. The manual was bright red. Crying while leaning in. At that moment, I was completely calmed down. My aunt is my only relative. She was only less than 10 years older than me. But after my parents died in a car accident, she raised me alone. She is not married, no children of their own. All the hard work of effort, all poured into me. She worked 2 jobs outside the capital, providing for me to study, do the laundry and cook for me. When I was sick, he stayed by my bedside all night. She is not my mother, but she did more than her mother. And I have traveled to this cursed place. He left for decades. Although the flow of time on Blue Star is different from here, but according to the system, Blue Star has been in the dark for quite a long time. Xiao Yi must have thought I was dead. She must have thought her only family member. And so, it disappeared from the world. I closed my eyes. Blood surged throughout his body. A long time later, I opened my eyes. I accept the task, but I never expected those 4 words. Let me push Luo Lingchuang into the abyss. To ensure the plan is flawless, I made the final secret arrangements. Those demonic cultivators had already entrusted their treasures to the Xiantian sect. I gave them the identity of an insider. They gladly accepted. The only problem was Luo Lingchuang. He is one of the guards of the treasure pavilion. If he were there, with his strength and alertness, demonic cultivators simply can't get in. I have to lure him away. So I wrote a letter. The letter states, little junior sister, senior brother is at Han Xiaofeng. He found a 1,000-year-old Bingling repository. It will be extremely helpful for you to break through the cause. Senior brother is busy today and can't take time off. You go wait for me at Han Xiaofeng first. I will definitely arrive before dark. I knew he would go, because in this world, if there is someone he trusts without reservation, that is me, the senior brother. After all, I was the one who carried him out of that icy wilderness. It's the name I gave him. Teach him to read and write. Teach him how to cultivate. It was in the middle of the night when he woke up from his nightmare, sitting by his bedside. He kept saying that senior brother was here. Don't be afraid. How could he not trust me? There was another sentence in the letter. Spirit Frost, senior brother has a surprise for you. That day, he went to Han Xiaofeng. He put on the light blue dress I had given him before. He only wears that dress when he's happiest. But he waited a whole day for the topping out, waiting from sunrise to sunset. When the wind and snow began to rise, the sky darkened. He did not get to see the senior brother he had been longing for. But what he met was the sect's law enforcement elder. There is also another piece of news. Chen Huiyan joined forces with the demonic path. He stole the sect's treasure, and granted him prior insights. He was assigned to judge the selection of Tianzong, Lorraine twin. As the head of the treasure pavilion, you are Q Shanli's official post. You are suspected of being an accomplice. Chen Huiyan, who lived apart in Lorraine, was very close. Surely it has long been reversed. Don't be fooled by his usual aloof demeanor. Maybe he's already been dead with that person long ago. The mounts of the masses are like metal and gold. He explained in every possible way. No one believed it. Everyone accused him of being a traitor. The sect imprisoned him. Scales are pulled out and bones are pulled out, and imposed severe punishments. In that dark, damp dungeon, he had his bones broken, poisoned with it. Soul searching was performed using forbidden arts. Yet he still trusted his senior brother. During those nights when he was tormented, how much he wished to see the figure he saw as a light of light. But in the end, no one came to save him. And I, the one who started it. Yet it is 1,000 li away. Using the feather immortal sword taken from the demonic path, he was crazily advancing his cultivation. After obtaining the immortal sword, I will slaughter all those demonic cultivators with a single move. The system is very slow. In the 3rd year of Lorraine Shuang's imprisonment, she disappeared from the dungeon. The sect searched the entire mountain gate but couldn't find her. No one knows where she went, dead or alive, until 300 years later. Luoyun continent has never seen its history. The first female demon lord at the heavenly venerable realm, and her name was none other than Lorraine Frost. She was ruthless. The first thing to do after leaving the country, it was a bloodbath in Xiantian sect. The entire clan numbered tens of thousands. Not a single survivor was found. Then he came to see me. At that time, I also achieved the heavenly venerable scheme with the help of the system. He established his own sect. He became the sole ancestor of the righteous coalition. The two sects of the demonic ancestor were evenly matched. We confronted each other on the Xianmo battlefield, separated by thousands of troops, across the sea of blood and deep hatred. 300 years without seeing him grow up. The little girl who used to chase me all over the yard. He transformed into a body covered in demonic energy. The female demon lord, her face frosty, under his 300 years of hatred and murderous intent. I can still recognize those eyes. That was when I picked him up in a blizzard. The first time he opened his eyes to look into my eyes, I realized I hadn't completely dissipated. Exactly. It was the system that didn't send me away immediately. He gave me the last hour, saying goodbye to this world. The Final mission is complete. Because the host soul needs time to stabilize, hosts will be given 1 hour of free time. An hour later, the host will return to Blue Star. During this period, the host exists in the form of a remnant soul, unable to interact with any living beings. I was floating in midair, like a transparent observer, trapped in the last hour of this world. The Great War of the Demon ended. The Xianben coalition suffered a crushing defeat. More than half of the righteous cultivators were slain. The rest either surrendered or scattered. Luo Lingfrost alone was caught in the wind and left the battlefield. But he only went to one place, Han Xiaofeng. That was the old decree of the Xiantian sect, once a majestic and magnificent sect. Now, after being slaughtered by him, it has turned to ruins. Wild grass grows thick between the broken walls and ruined walls. Once shrouded in immortal energy, it turned into a deathly silence. He stood at the edge of the cliff. Below lies a bottomless abyss. Thick fog churned, and by the cliff stands a pale pine tree. Its branches and trunk are as lush and pure as dragons. The pine needles are lush and green, ready to drip. Amidst these ruins, it is the only thing still alive, because this tree was planted together with it. That was its first year after entering Xiantian sect. Winter has just passed. Spring snow emerges from flourishing. It picked up a pine nut on the mountain. Come find me. His eyes lit up as he spoke. Senior brother, let's plant a tree. I asked why it was planting trees. Senior brother once said, pine trees are the toughest of all. Wind and snow cannot press it down. Thunder and fire cannot be reached by fairs. Ling Shuang also wanted to be as strong as the pine tree. So we were at the edge of Han Xiaofeng's cliff. A hole was dug. He buried the pine nuts inside. It was watered very seriously. He even pulled out a red rope from his pocket and tied it to a nearby stone. They say it's a wishing rope. I asked him what wish he had made. He clasped his hands behind his back. Her face flushed slightly. Not telling you. Then he whispered again. The whisper is almost inaudible. May you never leave Ling Shuang. Let Ling Shuang grow up. She must marry senior brother. 300 years later, pine nuts have grown into towering trees, and the two people who planted the trees, one had become the demon lord of the Mie clan, one has become a drifting regret. I watched Luo Ling Shuang standing in front of that pine tree. He reached out his hand, gently touching the rough trunk. Then he slowly crouched down, and ran to the tree roots. He hugged his knees with both hands. Tears streamed down his cheeks in large drops, dripping onto withered fallen leaves. 300 years, the demon lord Luo Ling Shuang. He had never shed a single tear in front of countless cultivators. When he was being stripped of his bones in the dungeon of the Xiantian sect, he didn't cry. He didn't cry during the bloodbath in the sect. Killing me is not crying. But at this moment, facing this shameless old pine tree, he cried like a child. Like when he was 5, curled up in a thatched hut. The cool hair you get when you can't wait for anyone. I stood behind him. He reached out to pat his head, but the hand slipped through his hair. You can't touch anything. Chen Huayan, you lied to me. My lingering soul is behind him. He spoke silently. Sorry, Ling Shuang, but he couldn't hear it. No one can hear it. How I wish I could hold him. How I wish I had been a child. Hold him in your arms. Repeating it over and over. Senior brother is here. Don't be afraid. But I'm no longer his senior brother. I am just a wisp of a lingering soul about to fade away. An hour passed quickly. My lingering soul began to become more transparent. Time to leave before it completely dissipated. I took one last look at him. He was still squatting there, hugging the knees, like a wounded little beast, curled up in that tree, beneath the old pine tree that holds his most precious memories. Goodbye, Lin Shuang. My consciousness sank into boundless darkness. The story of Luo Ling Shuang. It didn't end under that pine tree. In places I don't know. On a timeline I can't see. He cried for a long time in Han Xiaofeng. So long that the sky shifts from dusk to deep night. Then it shifted from late night to dawn. After crying, he stood up, wiping away her tears. Then he walked down the mountain. He went to the demon sect and summoned an elder. This elder was one of the people who had saved him from the Xiantian sect's dungeon years ago. Luo Ling Shuang had always thought she could escape. It was this elder who had taken the initiative to save him for a certain purpose. But today, he decided to get to the bottom of it, because there is a doubt. It had always lingered in his heart. Why would Chen Huayan join forces with the demonic path to steal the pioneer? And later, he was saved by the demonic path. What a coincidence. So coincidental it hardly seems like a coincidence. When the elder was summoned before Luo Ling Shuang, his expression changed. He noticed, with a sense of respect and respect in other heavens, the elder's sudden acceleration in heartbeat was completely undetectable to him. I have one question for you. 300 years ago, when you rescued me from the Xiantian sect's dungeon, who was it? The order? Replying to the demon lord. That was my own decision, considering the demon lord's extraordinary talent. Talk. The elder knelt on the ground, trembling all over like chaff. His little gestures could not escape Luo Ling Shuang's notice. He was no longer given a chance to argue. The spirit stones from the celestial venerable mirror directly crushed the elder's soul defense, plunging deep into his memory to search for his soul. The elder's memories unfolded before his eyes like flipping through a book. He saw everything. He saw a young man in white using his own soul blood. Drop by drop, it transformed into static formation patterns, forcibly covering the elder's consciousness. They have become puppets obeying their commands. That face this year, he was too familiar. Chen Huayan. He saw Chen Huayan pass through this puppet. He planned a perfect prison break. Time, root, and shift intervals. Every step is meticulously precise. He saw even more, far more than he had imagined. He saw Chen Huayan in the period of his reasoning, challenge them in a way that crosses boundaries. He fought a blood-soaked battle for 3 days and nights with an ancient beast at the peak of the nascent soul stage. In the footage, he is covered in blood. 6 ribs were broken. His left arm was almost torn off. Blood smeared across his entire face. He could barely keep his eyes open, but he still got up, again and again. Every time the beast sent him flying, he gritted his teeth and crawled out from the pile of rubble. He held up the immortal sword that had been given to him. He stood up crookedly, like a cockroach that won't fall but can't be killed. The beast roared furiously at him, but Chen Huayan spat out a mouthful of blood. A smile even appeared at the corner of his mouth. He is who? Luo Lingshuang's fingers were pinched into her palm. He certainly knew who he was. That was him, trapped deep within the ruins. The scene continued to surge and turn. He saw Chen Huayan behind the sand demon beast. Exhausted, he collapsed to the ground. He lay in a pool of blood, unconscious for half a day. The first thing you do after waking up, it was the puppet command to clean up all traces of the scene. Not a single detail was spared. He also saw other things. The time he was ambushed in a secret realm. It was Chen Huayan who had infiltrated the secret realm 3 days in advance. He used his true energy to destroy the key core of the ambush formation. The ambush turned into a false alarm. The ancient demon palace classic he had accidentally discovered. It was Chen Huayan who spent 2 years risking his life. He was taken out from a forbidden area. Then he placed the puppet along the route he had to take. The Heart Demon Festival he encountered while close to the Divine Transformation Force. It was Chen Huayan who used his Divine Consciousness avatar to infiltrate his inner demon space. He took the brunt of the deadliest relics for him. The price is that his own Genshin impact rift deepens. He nearly died on the spot. Scene after scene. 300 years. A full 300 years. He guarded him in the shadows for 300 years. Every time, he thought it was fate favoring good fortune. Every time, he thought it was because he had worked hard enough, only to endure the calamity. Every time, he thought it was fate. Finally, there was a chance to show him some favor. It was all him. All of them were Chen Huayan. He hated that for 300 years. He has been cursing for 300 years. The person who swore to kill with his own hands. Always in places he can't see. Risking her own blood and life to fight for him. Lauren Shuang withdrew from the elder's soul memories. His vision blurred. The tears could no longer be stopped. The scene is not over yet. The final scene. He saw it again. Modeling the scene of the final battle. He saw his hatred sword pierce Chen Huayan's chest. Both are honored by heaven. With Chen Huayan's strength, he could easily block that strike, but he didn't dodge. It was as if he had run into it. Even at the very moment the sword tip pierced through, he clearly saw the curve at the corner of his mouth. He was laughing. That kind of laughter is not mockery, not bitterness. This is relief. It was as if something heavy had finally been unloaded. It was as if he was saying it was finally over. Lauren Shuang's body knelt on the ground like a puppet with a broken string. He covered his face with both hands. His nails dug into his own skin. Blood dripped down his finger, but he couldn't feel any pain, because of the pain in his heart. It has already devoured all perception. He trembled. He pulled something out of his storage pouch, and gave him the sword first. That was the spoils he had taken from Chen Huayan. After Chen Huayan had dissipated, the sword fell on the battlefield. He picked it up. He originally thought the sword was just a weapon, a symbol of betrayal. But at this moment, he found that the stillness on the sword had been lifted, because the person who set the stillnesses is already dead. After the rest fades away, a faint lingering voice appeared within the sword's soul, so weak it was like a candle flickering in the wind, destroyed at any moment. But he heard it clearly. Well done, little junior sister. This is the fate of senior brother. It was Chen Huayan's voice, hoarse and weak, yet carrying the tenderness he once knew. Senior brother is leaving, to a far, far away place. After I left, you must take good care of yourself. The road ahead. You have to leave on your own. Sorry. Ling Shuang. Sorry to have wronged you. The sound faded away. The sword soul returns to silence. Luo Lingshuang knelt on the ground, holding the rain immortal sword in both hands, like holding the most precious thing in the world. He sobbed so much that his whole body trembled. His shoulders heaved violently. He uttered intermittent muffled breaths. 300 years. He waited 300 years for an apology. Finally, I heard it. But the person who said this, it's already gone. Senior brother, why didn't you tell me earlier? Ling Shuang, please don't apologize. Ling Shuang wants her senior brother. You come back. Please come back. But no one answered him. The cold wind howled above the ruins. The branches and leaves of that old pine rustled in the wind. It was as if she spoke softly on behalf of someone. Don't cry, Ling Shuang. At that moment, I suddenly opened my eyes. In front of him was a dimly lit ceiling. His body felt as heavy as if he had been drawn by a lot. I instinctively sensed the spiritual power within me, but unexpectedly, his dantian was completely empty. Meridians are like a depleted riverbed. He couldn't even sense the slightest fluctuation of spiritual power. I became immortal. I tried moving my body a bit in the middle of the night. He found that although his cultivation had improved, but the strength of the muscles and the hardness of the bones still seemed to remain. His foundation in body refinement was preserved. 300 years of cultivation, refining the body. It hasn't completely disappeared. The strangest part is, I could vaguely vaguely feel it. Blue Star also seemed to have the same spiritual energy as the Luoyun continent, although very faint. I rolled out of bed. A bright wall nearly toppled over. Everything in sight was too unreal. This is a rental apartment, about 10 or so square meters, but it wasn't the room I was familiar with. There are pink graffiti on the walls. On the table was a row of skincare skins. The sheets and quilts are all pink. There is also a teddy bear on the windowsill. This is a girl's room. I crossed over to the rented house I had previously lived in. It was no longer mine. Over the past 3 years, the landlord has probably reclaimed it and rented it out to others. He glanced out the window. Tall buildings stand in rows. Traffic was bustling and busy. It's Blue Star. I really came back. A surge of emotion, surging up from the chest. 300 years. I'm in that damn lesser world, struggling for 307 years. From an 18-year-old boy, to a supreme of the ancestral sect, then a corpse pierced by a demonic sword. Now I'm finally back. I scanned the area. I saw a phone on the bedside table. The date displayed on the screen. It left me stunned. 3 years. 3 years have passed on Blue Star. His mind fell silent. That pot system has been in place for 300 years. It also disappeared. I was about to go out. He casually grabbed a tissue to wipe his face, but the door to the next bathroom suddenly opened. A mist spread out. Next was a figure wrapped in a towel. Her pink hair was damp and draped over her shoulders. A delicate face appeared through the white mist. The girl's hand was still drying her hair. His gaze was lazy. Then she saw me. The two stared at each other for about 3 seconds. The scream nearly burst through my eardrums. The girl screamed and took 2 steps back. One hand tightly gripped the towel. With the other hand, I grabbed the shower gel on the sink. It was thrown at me. I can explain. Explain my ass. I'm going to call the police. He really pulled out his phone, ready to dial. Neighbors came from outside. Bang, knock, knock at the door. What's going on inside? Should we call the police? It's hard to explain. Dragging on any longer. If you really get caught as a pervert. I turned around, pushed open the window, and climbed outside. This is the 3rd floor, about 8 or 9 meters tall. If it were an ordinary person, if he didn't die from that jump, he'd be in trouble. But I found myself landing. In an instant, his knees bent slightly. Her feet were firmly planted on the ground. Not even a tremble. Just as expected, his body training foundation was still intact. A body respected for 300 years. Tempering is not given for free. I didn't look back. He took off running. The wind brushed against my face. It carries the distinctive smell of Blue Star's car exhaust and city dust. Hard to smell, yet so intimate. He sprinted all the way for more than 10 minutes. After confirming no one was chasing after him, I stopped. He bent over, gasping for breath. On the billboards by the street, some news I couldn't understand was playing. People on the road hurried by. His expression was mostly tense and wary. This is not normal. I remember that in the past, this street was full of people wandering around. But now is not the time to dwell on that. Because I saw something. A sheet of yellow paper on the utility pole. Maybe it's because of the wind, sun, and rain. The edges are all curled. The color was pushed by more than half, but the content above is still clearly visible. Right in the center is my photo. Below the photo, 4 characters indicate missing persons. Below that was a line of handwritten characters. The handwriting was crooked. The writer's hands were probably shaking. Wyan, Auntie is looking for you. Please contact us if you see it. Behind it was a string of phone numbers. Signature, Jiang Dishue. I squatted under a utility pole. He stared at that piece of paper for a long time. So long that even the passing aunties cast strange glances at her. Auntie, I'm back. I finally came back. I ran toward home, following my memories. My aunt's residential complex isn't far from here, about 3 bus stops away. I used to walk this path every day to learn. You won't get lost even with your eyes closed. When he reached the entrance of the residential complex, my heart was pounding so fast it felt like it was about to leap out of my throat. From going upstairs, standing before that door that was so familiar in his memory, I took a deep breath and knocked on the door. But the one opening the door was more familiar than before. I took a deep breath and knocked on the door, but the door was opened by a stranger in his 40s. Who are you looking for? I used to live here. May I ask who the original residents were here? Just one. A woman around 30 years old. Oh, you mean the previous tenant? He had already moved away long ago, about 2 years ago. I also rented it later. Do you know where she moved to? No idea. The contract I signed with the landlord, and I never met the previous one. The door box is up. I stood in the hallway in a daze for quite a while. Don't panic. And a phone number. The number left on the missing person notice. I turned back to the tenant's door, knocking again. So what now? Impatience was written all over the man's face. Sorry, could I borrow your phone? Just make a phone call, very soon. The man hesitated for a moment. Maybe he saw that I looked so cross-dressed, not like a bad person. He still handed over the phone. I dialed that number. The number you dialed has been down. I dialed again. The number you dialed has been down. I was anxious, preparing to go to the police station to check the household registration, migration records, with identity information. We should be able to find out where he moved to. But I had just gotten halfway there. The weather has changed. It's not the kind of change you see on cloudy days. Instead, a strange black mist suddenly appeared in the sky. Like ink, it spreads across the blue sky. The speed is extremely fast. Immediately after, people on the street began screaming and scattering in all directions. The demon beast has arrived. Run! Another spatial rift. Running toward the subway station. Underground safety. I stood on the street, looking at the crowd frantically fleeing around them. The crowd running around was completely baffled. Beast spatial rift. This is Blue Star. Since when did Blue Star have monsters? But the next second, I understood. A crack tore open in the black mist. Although it is not large, but it's enough to make a head size. A tiger-like beast nearly 2 stories tall emerged from it. Its body surface is covered with pitch black, armor-like scales. His eyes glowed with a faint green light. Thick salty liquid was applied to its huge fangs. I felt her spiritual energy fluctuations from the golden elixir and below. It's probably just a peak level, but for ordinary people on Blue Star, this is the apocalypse level monster. She lunged toward the fleeing crowd. In that moment, I saw 3 young people, 2 sons and 1 daughter, probably just over 20. The slowest runner. They didn't even have time to look back. The giant tiger-shaped beast was photographed. Blood mist exploded. 3 young lives. And just like that, he disappeared before my eyes. Not even a bone remains. I clenched my fists. He tried to mobilize the spiritual power within his body. Nothing at all. He couldn't even touch the threshold of Lian Chichi. But the miserable state of those 3 was right before their eyes. It should be my turn soon. Who cares if he has cultivation or not? Laozi was once a venerable ancestor. I strode forward. 300 years of combat instinct made me leap into the air. A punch landed squarely on the side of the beast's neck. Immediately after, there was a dull thud. A tremendous counterforce was transmitted from all over his arms to his arm. The vibration made my whole arm go numb. But the beast was knocked back 2 steps by my punch. He let out a resentful roar. Green eyes fired fiercely, forcing him to step back 2 paces. He let out a resentful roar. Green eyes stared at me intently. It was as if he couldn't believe that a mere mortal could move him. I was a bit surprised too, although he had no cultivation. But the strength of this body far exceeded my expectations. Although the inherited body refinement was actually less than 1. But Qian Zhongjin was no joke. The demon beast lunged again. I dodged to the side. At the same time, he grabbed a bare steel bar found among the ruins of a roadside building, about 1.2 meters long. I pulled it out as thick as an arm, although there is no spiritual power to channel it. But I have something else. Soul power and spiritual power are different. Soul power is the power at the level of the primordial spirit. Although my cultivation level has dropped to 0, but the heavenly respect primordial spirit framework remains. The remnants of soul power were still there. I injected the remaining soul power into the steel bar, an ordinary piece of construction waste. In my hand, it turned into a weapon that emitted a faint glow. The beast sensed danger, let out a furious roar, but I was just about to make a move. A whistling wind came from behind. The entire team formed ranks. Tactical encirclement number 3. A group of people in black uniforms poured out from both sides of the street, their movements well trained. I was surprised to find that they actually had a faint amount of spiritual power, probably at the support level. The man at the front had pink hair tied in a high ponytail, dressed in a tactical uniform, and his delicate face was full of seriousness. Fierce. It turned out to be the girl he met in the rented apartment. No, at this moment, she looked more like a leopard ready to tear her enemies apart at any moment. In her hand, a faint purple spiritual glow gathered, her cultivation at the peak of the support strike level. At his command, more than a dozen men in black simultaneously released spiritual power, forming formations and combining, weaving spiritual energy into a net. They trapped the tiger-like beast in the center. After a fierce battle, they were humiliated and killed. Some were sent flying, but in the end, it was still the girl. Under his command, the beast was slain. The beast's corpse crashed to the ground, kicking up dust everywhere, and the girl gasped for breath. Sweat covered her forehead, and while cleaning up the scene, she saw me in the crowd. She was still holding that glowing steel bar, and their eyes met. Her face turned pale and then white. She probably remembered just coming out of the bathroom, just being completely exposed by a strange man. He didn't hesitate, rushed over and grabbed my collar, take it away, and escorted him onto the carriage, and so on. I can explain. Enough talk. Let's go. That's it. I was stuffed into a black van. It was only through their mouths that I found out. These people belonged to the official Jumor Bureau established by Huaxia. 3 years ago, that was the moment I transmigrated to the Luoyun continent. Blue Star suddenly began to revive its spiritual energy, the concentration of spiritual energy from heaven and earth. In the following months, the numbers skyrocketed dozens of times. A small portion of humans awakened spiritual power, gained supernatural powers. The official ranks have been divided according to strength. B level, A level, Ice level, General level, Commander level, Yellow level, Emperor level. Currently, the highest known level on Blue Star is Emperor level. It is said that there are only single-digit numbers worldwide. And that pink-haired girl, Jiyu Mengyao, he is the captain of the Chicken Demon Bureau in Jiangkai City. He brought his peak supernatural abilities. In this city, it is considered one of the best. Outstanding individuals. At the same time, spiritual energy revival also brings side effects. Spatial rifts occasionally appeared in the sky. Various mutated beasts descended from the rift. These demon beasts use spiritual power as stone. They prey on humans, bringing great disaster to Blue Star. The Golden Demon Bureau was established specifically to address this situation. So who exactly are you? Jiyu Mengyao sat across from me, arms crossed over the chest. His gaze was wary. I used a set of excuses. That rental used to be rented by me. 3 years ago, I was mysteriously transported to another place. He only came back yesterday. When you come back, You find your house is occupied by you. This really wasn't my intention. He clearly didn't quite believe it, but he didn't immediately refute it. Teleportation. You mean you're also an awakener? It's not that I don't have supernatural energy fluctuations. That was true. I really don't have spiritual power right now. Then how did you survive in front of that demon beast just now? That's equivalent to a commander-level beast. Maybe it's just that he's in good physical condition. Jiu Mengyao stared at me for a long time. Her intuition told her this man was no ordinary man, but she really couldn't detect it from me. Any fluctuations in her abilities ultimately led her not to ask further. Alright, I won't pursue this for now, but you just said you lost contact with your family. Yes, my aunt's name is Jiang Yishue. 3 years ago, she lived in an old neighborhood in the south of the city, but now she's moving. He left, and his phone was getting anxious. The phone is getting anxious too. Can you help me check her whereabouts? You can give it a try. In recent years, due to the monster disaster, many people went missing or were killed or injured. The official team has a missing person system, but I couldn't find anything. I can't guarantee it. Thank you. She glanced at me. It seemed like he wanted to say something, but in the end, he just snorted. Turn your face toward the window. Maybe they're still angry about the rental apartment. I silently apologized in my heart. Jiu Mengyao didn't report my existence. This surprised me a bit. Later, she explained to me. In recent years, some people have awakened their supernatural abilities. Just want to live an ordinary life. Unwilling to be officially registered or signed. Although she was the captain of the Chicken Demon Bureau. But I can also understand this idea. Besides, even if I pose a threat to the city, he is confident that he can handle it at his peak. If he knew that in another world, I am the heavenly venerable sword. Probably not so confident, but I didn't plan to tell him. Drawing official attention at this point would only add to the trouble. And I just want to find my aunt. Jiu Mengyao arranged a budget hotel for me to stay at. He also got me a phone and a new number. I stared at the brand new phone. It felt like a lifetime ago. I haven't touched such an electronic product in 300 years. The last time I used a phone, it was the night before transmigration that he ordered takeout, fried chicken and cola. Prepare to sail a triangle boat every time, and block the bridge while you're at it. And then that damn radiant scroll. I ended up in the world of cultivation. Didn't get fried chicken and didn't get the triangle boat. 300 years have passed in a flash, sitting on that hard bed in the hotel. Suddenly, it felt somewhat unreal. Huang means 300 years, sitting on that hard bed in the hotel. Suddenly, it felt somewhat unreal. I searched for news on my phone. The screen was filled with monster invasions. Spiritual energy revived. Content related to supernatural users. The world has changed so much. Blue Star from 3 years ago, and it's just an ordinary tech celebrity ball. Now it had become a strange hybrid of half cultivation, half final cultivation. I turned off my phone and lay down. After a long day, I fell into a deep sleep. At that moment, it felt like I was dreaming. I saw Luo Lingshuang. She stood atop a towering mountain peak. That was the peak of the demon domain, her center of power. She single-handedly established the pinnacle of the empire. The night was as dark as ink. The Milky Way was dazzling, but those starlight shone on her white hair. It made her face look even paler. She stood there alone. No subordinates by his side. No attendants. Nothing at all. I noticed something in her hand. It is like giving him the sword of the heart. She had been clutching that sword the whole time. It's like clutching a certain obsession. Then she lowered her head. Tears fell drop by drop. It was as if he was murmuring something. It was the ringtone that woke me up. Jiu Mengyao's voice came through. Chen Huiyin. Her voice was somewhat unnatural. It was intermittent, as if carefully choosing his words. Found out. I found it. Your aunt moved to Sucheng 2 years ago. Zhu City. A year ago, it was invaded on a large scale by demon beasts. The entire city has fallen. Currently, Sucheng has been officially listed as an S-rank official. The entire process was occupied by large demon beasts. Communication interruption. There was no signal of survivors. Is he still alive? Currently, he is not his. Are you still alive? Currently, there is no career record for him. There are also no confirmed deaths. However, to be honest, the probability is very low. Sorry, my hand holding the phone was trembling. Auntie, I've been fighting in the world of cultivation for 300 years, all just to come back and see you. But I came back. Yours? Where are you? Hang up the phone. I sat there for a long, very long time without moving. Memories flooded in like a flood. Sick as a child. My aunt carried me for more than 10 streets. Only then did I find the clinic still open. His clothes were soaked through with sweat. Shake my arm again. At that time, he was, even though he was only 17 or 18 years old, but he was already stubbornly like an adult. After school, he always stood at the school gate on time to wait for me, holding my favorite sugar-roasted chestnuts. In winter, he will be before I go to bed. Use a hot water bottle to warm my bed. If you say the bed is cold, you won't sleep well. The year of the college entrance exam, he waited outside the exam hall all day. He didn't even have lunch. He never says he's tired. Never say it's difficult. I know how hard it is for him to pull me up alone. An unmarried woman, raising a child who is not your biological child alone. He gave me all the best years of his life. A piercing alarm from outside the window came from the alarm club. An emergency notification popped up on his phone. Beast invasion alert. Citizens are urged to immediately seek shelter at underground air defense facility. possibilities. Here we go again, another demonic beast, but I didn't understand those instincts to avoid them, rational judgment, the desire to survive, all by a more primitive form. More violent emotions overshadowed it. Anger. 300 years. For 300 years, I have endured humiliation. A more primitive approach. More violent emotions overshadowed it. Anger. 300 years. For 300 years, I have endured humiliation and hardship by any means necessary. Betraying everyone. All just to come back. But he came back. Loved ones are gone. Home is gone. Nothing is left. All that remained was the world's demonic beasts and ruins. I stood up and walked to the window. A cold wind blew in, with distant explosions and screams. Below the first floor, the height is over 20 meters. The hotel is on the 10th floor. I stood on the windowsill. Below is a chaotic street. Demon beasts were chasing the fleeing crowd. But at that very moment, suddenly, I sensed something was off. Something was surging inside him, like a river that has slept for a long time. Finally, the thaw began. Spiritual power as fine as a floating thread. It was automatically pouring into my body from heaven and earth. In the Dantian, on that depleted riverbed, a faint glow of water appeared. Not much, but it really exists. Cultivation stage, Qi refining stage. Just one day. When I came back yesterday, my body is still in a purely tough state. Today, however, it began to absorb spiritual energy on its own, just like my former cultivation, gradually recovering. The Dantian container of the celestial venerable mirror was still there. The previous cultivation path was still there. The understanding of artistic conception remains. Right now, it's just pouring water back into the water. His speed far surpassed that of ordinary people. Although Lian Chichi's spiritual power was insignificant, but combined with my 300 years of artistic conception and cultivation method, that's enough. I descended from the hospital on the 10th floor. The moment it landed, spiritual power circulated through his legs. It removes the impact force. In front of them was the beast horde chasing the citizens. Dozens of grey wolf-shaped demon beasts. Its body size is like that of a calf. Touch the level of 7. Touch the level of 7. I condensed a transparent blade with my spiritual power, an almost illusory spiritual power sword. Lian Chichi's spiritual power activated the heavenly venerable sword absolute. It always feels like a small horse pulling a big cart. However, the difference in technique and artistic conception, this is enough to bridge the gap in cultivation rank. As I first saw it, a silvery sword aura streaked across the night sky. The curve is graceful like the moon's curved blade, and beheaded, sword energy swept across the bodies of dozens of grey wolf demon beasts ahead. At the same time, one general, then a split arises. The corpses of dozens of demon beasts crashed to the ground. A single sword wiped them out. The roadside hadn't made it in time yet. Several citizens who fled into the subway station. Seeing this, he was completely stunned on the spot. Her mouth opened wide enough to fit a whole apple. An older man even forgot he was fleeing for his life. He tripped, fall flat on one's face. But I didn't stop. More beasts surged out from the cracks in the sky. Wolf-shaped, snake-shaped, eagle-shaped. There is a wide variety of types, but most of his strength starts at foundation establishment. I rushed at them like a madman. For every demon beast killed, the terror within their bodies will be devoured by me. The spiritual power contained in those frightened souls surged into my Dantian, filling that huge container. Ashamed yet swiftly ascending. It felt like a desert that had dried up for a century. Suddenly, a torrential rain arrived. Every inch of his meridians was greedily absorbing spiritual power. I don't know how many I killed. All I know is that when that night ends, my cultivation has stabilized at the peak of Juji. His clothes were soaked with the blood of the demon beasts, mixed with the blood flowing from my own wounds. But my eyes burned with fire. Auntie, wait for me. No matter where you are, I will definitely find you. In the coming weeks, I hunted demon beasts at an almost frenzied pace. During the day, they hunt on the edge of the city. At night, he practiced amidst deserted ruins. His cultivation was steadily rising. Early golden core stage, mid-stage golden core stage, golden core peak. Every breakthrough was incredibly smooth, like a road you've walked before. On the second round, every step is precise. By the end of the third week, I have already reached the peak of the golden core stage. I have grasped the threshold of the reason, equivalent to a 10th rank supernatural in the blue star world. I try to avoid people from the lonely bureau. I don't want to cause trouble, but what was meant to happen still happened. That evening, the sky above Jianghai City tore open once again, but this time, the crack, bigger than ever before, so big it could swallow an entire football field. The black mist surged like a boiling desert sea, an unprecedented demonic aura. At the peak of his voice, he even showed signs of approaching Huishan. A massive creature crawled out from the fissure. It was a giant horse, pitch black from head to toe. The scales reflected the purple glow of demon wings in his gaze, as thick as a city's sewer pipes. The length is at least 100 meters long with no visible tail. It sits above Jianghai City. When the snake apricot spit out, the temperature inside the Fangyuan tree dropped sharply. The scariest part was when it spoke. The human aura was thick here. A tycoon, speaking human language, has already given birth to intelligence. This was a true great demon. Behind her followed countless demon beasts of slightly lower cultivation. The lonely drama is on the move. It's not just Ji Yumingyao's burial at Jianghai City. They even sent a martial level ability user to reinforce Lin Tian. Although Lin Tian was a young man, but her eyes were deep. The battles experienced were not few. Her entire body radiated a metallic spiritual energy fluctuation. Her ability transformed into a massive blade of fire. It can even release spiritual pressure. Commander level at the peak, equivalent to the peak of the golden core stage. But when facing this popular horse, she was only reluctant. The two sides fought for less than 10 minutes. He was handsome, but in front of the great demon Yang, he was as insignificant as paper. The others from the Golden Demon Bureau were even worse. In this battle, over 100 ability users died on the spot, some even split in two by the giant serpent, and countless were seriously injured. Count, why haven't headquarters reinforcements arrived yet? Damn it, this is what we call for a death sentence with medical superpowers. Xiao Li couldn't hold on any longer. A blonde young man was crying not only from the wounds of the girl in his arms. They were both executives of the Golden Demon Bureau in Jianghai City, the blooded young woman who was also his lover. Captain, the entire medical team has already been killed. It's not just fear, that is despair. This is not martial level at all. This is the yellow grade. In the face of such power, we are all just going to our deaths. Captain, maybe we should retreat. The young man wiped away his tears. They immediately showed a resolute expression. He trembled as he reached for the lighter mosquito coil. You retreat with Xiao Li. Protect him. Captain, you crazy? Homosexuals. The other squads were still fighting fiercely. Behind us, it is the millions of citizens of Jianghai City. It is the countless people. We retreated. What will they do? Others. I'm afraid of dying. Follow me. Flying more than 10 meters, he crashed into an overturned bus. Unconscious, Mingyu lazily sat there. The snake boy was full of amusement. For him, these humans are nothing but ants that can be crushed with a flick of their finger. Boring. Are humans in this world really that weak? Killing them is not much fun. But in the next moment, he saw a man emerge from the shadows. Step by step, he walked up to Manhua. The pace was slow. There was absolutely no threat at all. The dust from the ruins had not yet settled. The firelight stiffened my cheek. Manhua lowered his head. The snake boy stared at me. He can sense my cultivation level, reaching the peak. In his eyes, he was just an ant, but deep within his soul, he felt a chill, as if carved into his Dead Sea. It made him feel that the person in front of him looked somewhat familiar, but just foundation building. How could it compare to his hundreds of years of cultivation? Here comes another troublemaker. I didn't say anything. The spiritual power in his dantian was rapidly circulating. Flow along a cultivation path far beyond your current realm. This is the secretary I created myself in my previous life. Yellow Springs Point. The celestial venerable himself is a killer move. It is done with the power of the soul, using the spiritual energy of heaven and earth as the blade, gathered in the will of the wheel. At the beginning of willpower, like the Daoist temple of the Yellow Springs, all living beings are annihilated. To support the peak of spiritual power, to activate this secret technique, it's like using a bowl to hold a river. The body will suffer a huge backlash, but could he land that blow? Because the key isn't how much spiritual power there is, it lies in how deeply one understands Tao fortune. 300 years of insight. Plus, the system once gave me a smear of infusion. Deep enough. Minute Yongmeng was a bit impatient. The ponytail swung over, carrying a mountain with you. The terrifying power of crushing them into rubble. I dodged to the side, trying to dodge. The furry tail brushed against my clothes and crashed to the ground. The ground within 100 meters collapsed into a deep pit. I did 3 somersaults in the air to steady myself. Before it landed, my right hand had already extended my index finger. A faint blue glow gathered at his fingertip. That light was not as dazzling and brilliant as a sharp brilliance, but rather a profound darkness. Like a spirit flame burning in the abyss, Manhua's pupils contracted sharply. He sensed it, within that tiny, almost negligible glimmer of light. It contains a terrifying power strong enough to destroy him, along with past and present lives. Impossible. You're just a mere support. He didn't have time to finish. My finger pointed out. Yellow Springs Point. A pillar of ghostly blue light, shooting from my fingertips, as it passes through the air, delivering sharp stigma. That sound didn't sound like light moving. It felt more like the space itself was being torn apart. The speed of the beam, so fast that the naked eye can't catch it. In Minute Yumang's eyes, it reflected that light. This light. Then, his tongue was open. Black blood rain filled the sky, flowing like a waterfall. The massive wild body lost control. Falling from midair, it crashed into the city streets. Morning waves stretched hundreds of meters around. Yuan Ying had a broad waist, and with a single finger, it was extinguished. I landed on the ground, but his right arm was trembling. This was the backlash of forcibly using advanced techniques. There were multiple fine cracks in the veins. A trace of blood trickled from the corner of my mouth. All the surviving members of the Chicken Demon Bureau around were stunned. Lin Tian crawled out from the ruins, covered in dust. His face was full of disbelief. He saw one with his own eyes. It seems only the young man has his own strength. With a single finger, he killed Yuan Ying's big waist, which couldn't last even half a minute. When did Jiang Haisha suddenly emerge as such a figure? But before they could recover from their shock, the sky cracked again. This time, the crack was even bigger and deeper than before. The breath seeping from the cracks, it made his blood run cold by half. The seventh fairy, a humanoid silhouette emerged from the crack. That's right, it was through walking. It's not about drilling, not flying, not courage. Instead, he remained calm and unhurried, with an elegance that looks down on all beings. He came out. It was a demon beast with a humanoid body, a male face. His features were sharp and mysterious. His skin was pale as jade. His eyes were those of a golden snake child. It wears a piece of pitch black armor. Behind it unfolds a pair of giant wings covered in deep purple scales. It almost covered half the sky. Earth-level demon beast. The terrain body sleeper stands in place, feeling the terrifying pressure descending from the sky. A beast of this level. It hasn't appeared many times on the entire Blue Star. And now, in the small Jianghai city, Lin Tian's face was no longer ashen, but deathly pale. He had been through countless battles, but it had never faced the existence of a prefecture-level opponent, because on Blue Star, there is only one Earth-level ability user in all of China, and that one was defending against another Earth-level beast in the northern domain. In other words, Jianghai City has no strength to deal with this thing. The helicopter was still circling overhead, broadcast the live footage via satellite signal. It was sent back to the Huaxiao Terminal Drama headquarters. The command room was filled with a deadly atmosphere. On the big screen, the figure of the historical sky resembles a demon god among the soldiers. Prefecture level. Another Earth level. How could it appear in Jianghai City? It was just a sea-level defense city, connecting the location of the northern region. It was too late. Everyone's eyes were fixed on the screen. The land bows its head. He glanced at the ruins of the city beneath his feet, and those in the ruins, trembling like a tower-like human. He laughed. That smile carried a pure, light-hearted air. That spiritual energy fluctuation just now. It's actually quite interesting. His gaze fell on me. You killed the vanguard in this game. I clenched my fists. His right arm was still aching faintly from the backlash of the Yellow Springs pool. The cracks in the meridians had not yet healed. I haven't even reached the original Yin Nira, facing a Huashan-level Earth-level demon beast. The chances of winning are close to zero. I am fully capable of using cultivation techniques to escape. A celestial venerable level movement technique and artistic realm, combined with the spiritual power of the assist. At least he could escape his tracking range. But I didn't leave, because they walked behind me. Because there was someone behind him. And then there was the unconscious Gu Mengyao, wounded Ling Tian, and those who couldn't evacuate in time. Member of the Chicken Demon Bureau. And in this city, countless ordinary people are fleeing toward underground air defense facilities. But my aunt, maybe the aunt is still alive. If I die here, who would rush to find her? But if I escape, what about the people here? Dry. I was never a saint. 300 years of cultivation journey. I am deceiving and cheating, betraying trust and abandoning righteousness, killing countless people. I've done everything I lacked. But this is Blue Star. It is the place where I was born and raised. I simply can't do it. When their own compatriots were sent to their deaths, turn and run. Maybe it's because of my aunt. A phrase taught to me since I was little. Wyan. One must have a conscience. The terrain seems to be heavenly. He was dissatisfied with my silence. Ants. You humans are nothing special. This is the Phoenix Shigao's fate of existence. Descending into this realm, I thought it would be a bit fun. I didn't expect it to be so boring. The Supreme Being. What does that mean? These beasts are not random. Has it never descended from a crack? They came by order. By whom? I don't have time to think about these questions, because the land and heaven were moving, not so fast that you can't see it. Instead, it disappeared directly from my sight. In the next instant, he appeared right beside me. What do you think about this text? A world-destroying force. It came from the right side. My body was struck by a huge palm. It shot out like a cannonball, passing through countless buildings. Ultimately, it was embedded in the fourth wall. It was inside the fourth wall. A large mouthful of blood spurted from his mouth. Several ribs were broken in his chest cavity. Offal is the same. The meridians collapse and separate. Is that all there is to it? The voice of the 10th day came from afar, full of disappointment. I pulled it out from the hollow in the wall, struggling to his feet. Vision is blurry. His mouth was covered in blood, but my mind is clear. Mid-stage of nascent soul. With my current cultivation and condition, head-on combat is simply impossible. But who says it has to be fought head-on? I wiped the blood from the corner of my mouth and smiled. On the 10th day, he raised his eyebrows. A dying man was still smiling. He didn't rush to act. It seemed like he wanted to see what tricks this and had up to it. I began burning longevity. This is a taboo technique, at the cost of overdrawing one's life, unleashing power far beyond one's own limits in a short time. Ordinary modifications burn the source of longevity. At most, it can raise 1 or 2 minor realms. But I am not an ordinary groom. My Dantian container is at the heavenly venerable level. My understanding of the cultivation method is at the heavenly venerable level. I just lack spiritual power, and burn the source of longevity. It was just right to convert vitality into spiritual power, exchanging one's life for strength. Yet my life is meager. A scorching power surged from his Dantian like a volcanic eruption. Cultivation. The Jingdan exhaled his breath, calming the vital energy within the cinnabar. Jingdan peak. Original pronunciation exhales. He adds 2 small alerts. It still seemed like a do-or-die situation, but that's enough. That's enough for me to unleash that sword strike. I gathered all my spiritual power. Gather them all in your right hand. A phantom longsword formed in his palm. The longsword took shape in his palm. It was exactly the appearance of the immortal sword, completely transparent. It glowed with a faint silvery white glow. This is my life-bound sword duke from my previous life, and his heart fell apart at the expense of attack range. Gather all your strength into one point, at the beginning of the sword, like falling stars, never resting until broken. On the 10th day, he finally sensed something was wrong. He sensed the terrifying power contained within that illusory sword, not the power of the cause level. What exactly is it? A look of shock finally appeared on his face. But in the end, it was just surprise. He was the incarnation of an old monster. How could he not have a trump card? But just as I was about to appear, the sky is fierce, not the kind of cracks we used to have. Instead, the entire Tianqian was torn apart. The entire blue star time. It was as if everything had been stopped. A galaxy stretching across the sky. It burst forth from the sky curtain. The stars shone brilliantly, like a silver waterfall. From the 9th heaven to the heavens, everything clearly descended. I will never forget how it felt at that moment. That pressure erupting from the Milky Way. So fast it was despairing, terrifying enough to make your soul stand on end. Everyone was crushed and unable to move. Lin Tian immediately knelt down on the ground, spitting fresh blood. Ji Mengyao's unconscious body, uncontrollable chaos. An ordinary person faints from 100 kilometers away, even on the 10th day. Which beast is at the nascent soul level? A look appeared on her face as well, fear seeping from the very bone, because she knew what level of power this was. Not a nascent soul, not refining void. He recognized this aura, the highest level of power in this universe. In the midst of the Milky Way, a figure slowly walked out. In that instant, the helicopter signal from the Huaxia headquarters was cut off. Lie down clean. It was as if some invisible force had severed it in one stroke. Not just the entire network of Huaxia Blue Star, satellite communications, electromagnetic signals, all interrupted. All electronic screens turned into snowflakes. All the radars turned into blank slates. It's like someone has pressed the mute button on the entire planet. Meanwhile, in the Milky Way, a figure stepped out stepping on the starlight. She wore a dark robe with magic patterns, black and red rubber woven patterns, like burning blood flames flowing across his robes, with long hair as white as snow. Cold silver shimmered in the starlight. His face was pale to the point of near transparency, so exquisite it seemed unlike anything of the mortal world. A dark red magic pattern on his brow. It was like a third eye, or like an eternally blooming blood-red flower. Cold, violent, and mad, yet it carries a heartbreaking sense of loneliness. She hovered in midair, the demonic aura radiating from his body. The sky for hundreds of miles around was dyed a deep red. Those eyes swept over this unfamiliar steel jungle. High-rise buildings, highways, cars, lights. These things were completely unfamiliar to her. Then her gaze looked downward. I saw ruins, bloodstains, and the terrain. Finally, I saw myself. Amidst the chaos, covered in blood, I was on the verge of collapse. Time seemed to stand still at that moment. We locked eyes, separated by over 1,000 meters, separated by two worlds of time and space. Her eyes showed both astonishment and surprise. There's also something hard to put into words, so complex that no language can describe it. Mood. That kind of feeling. I saw him the first time 300 years ago, when he was 5 years old. When I carried him out of the thatched hut, he opened his eyes and looked at me for the first time. That was the kind of look in his eyes. It was as if he were in the depths of despair. Suddenly, he saw a beam of light. Under this destructive level pressure, he couldn't even stand steadily. His legs were trembling. His eyes were filled with fear. This fear is born from the depths of the soul. It wasn't something he could resist with his cultivation and strength, because they are not on the same level. He wanted to speak. He wanted to beg for mercy, trying to intimidate them, trying to escape. Everything is good, but she couldn't even open her mouth. The falling color cream didn't even look at her. Her gaze was from the moment she saw me. He never moved away again. Then, a flash of sword light overflowed from the Milky Way. Just a faint trace, like the lightest stroke of ink wash. That sword light pierced through space, passing through the realm of the terrain sky. Protect the body and grind the chi. Physical defense, passing through everything. Di Shitian's body stiffened. Then, like a shattered mirror, and suddenly rose up. Not even ashes remained, transforming the wondrous beasts of the utmost land. He didn't even get a single glance from this mysterious woman. It was erased like an ant being crushed. All those still alive. No one dared to speak. It's not that I don't want to say it. It's hard to say. He was pressed down by that heavenly venerable level stomach pressure. Even breathing has become a luxury. Lin Tian lay on the ground. His bones creaked all over. I felt like I was about to be crushed into a meat patty. He desperately lifted his head, lifting his head through the blood, eyes protected by blood, looking at the figure in the sky. What kind of monster is this? This is no longer at the prefecture level. This goes beyond all the class divisions he knows. And Lorraine Shuang finally made her move. He fell from the sky. I smelled her stomach. Still that chilling severity. It carries the cool fragrance of plum blossoms. 300 years. It turned out she hadn't changed at all. I collapsed weakly into the ruins, covered in blood. He looked at her in a sorry state. He forced a smile. Face cream. She knelt down. A dignified supreme demonic path. Heaven respects the female demon lord. Kneeling among the ruins and rubble, he knelt before me. She poured spiritual power into my body like a madwoman. His hand was shaking. Her tears. From that pale one. Cold. It had never been shown in front of others for 300 years. A hint of weakness slid down his chin, drop by drop. Then there are countless drops. It was like something that had been suppressed for far too long. Finally, at a certain moment, he cried completely to the end. Time rewinds to the Luoyun continent, returning to my lingering soul and fading away. The moment the soul was sent back to Blue Star by the system, he cried for a whole day and night in Hangxiaofeng, crying until her tears dried up. His voice was hoarse. He felt as if he had been drained of his mind. The truth seen from the elder's memories, and the weak apology from that moment in the Chinese paladin, like two knives piercing his heart 1,000 times later. 300 years of hatred. 300 years of hatred. Everything collapsed in an instant. Instead, it was an emotion 10,000 times more painful than hatred. He personally killed that one, and the entire room collapsed. Instead, It was an emotion 10,000 times more painful than hatred. He personally killed the person who had always protected him. He personally killed the one who pulled him out of the abyss, and his senior brother, who had been watching over him in the shadows for 300 years. Ling Shuang, don't apologize. Ling Shuang summoned senior brother, but the senior brother was already gone. That gentle voice, that hand that always ruffled his hair. He said that one would hold her in the blizzard. The people who don't fear have disappeared, like a wisp of smoke. He had thought about following him, holding the henching sword horizontally at the side of his neck, with just a gentle slash. It was over, and he could go find his master, bro. But at that moment, a voice sounded in his stone sea, aged and profound, as if a voice transcending endless years. He did not die. Luo Lingshuang's hand trembled, and she nearly dropped her sword. He just went to another world, and you want to find him? Yes, of course they do. No matter where the world ends or the ends of the Star Sea, I have to find him, even if it means risking my own life. So he made a crazy decision. He abandoned the magic jade, abandoned the empire he had built with his own hands, and countless followers of his demonic path. Monks. The supreme Quan on the Luoyun continent. He gave up all his power. All he needed was to find Chen Huayan. With cultivation revered by heaven, he tore apart the wall chief Wei of the Luoyun continent, stepping into the vast sea of stars. But the sea of stars is vast and boundless. The world of Weimian is like a river crossing a river and killing trees, beyond measure. How did he find it? No direction, no clues. Only that voice left behind a vague guidance. Following the thread of cause and effect. The thread of cause and effect. He was 3 times between him and Chen Huayan. The thread of cause and effect. The thread of cause and effect. The 300-year bond between him and Chen Huayan, forming an extremely weak line, crossing the threads of cause and effect across the Wei surface. He is honored by heaven. He could barely sense the direction of this thread, so he chased after him. One Wei Mian after another chased after Wei Mian, chasing after another. Every time Wei Mian crossed Qinghai, all accompanied by terrifying temporal turbulence. That kind of power can tear apart a powerful body and Genshin impact. Even the one respected by heaven could not escape this fate. The first time I crossed over, his right arm was torn apart by the temporal turbulence. Blood turned into red mist in the void. He gritted his teeth and reattached the severed arm. Keep moving forward. The second time I crossed the river, he accidentally entered a desolate Wei Mian world, regarded as an invader by the will of the heavenly Tao of that world. It was rejected by a devastating level. The heavenly tribulation descended. 9 heavens thunder technique. He forced himself to block it. The price was that 1/3 of his meridians were shattered. The 3rd time, the 4th time, 5th time, countless times. Every time I crossed over, it was a gamble with my life. He was inside a guard called the Chaotic Star Sea. They were besieged by 3 ancient celestial venerable level experts. The rules of Weimian were extremely harsh. Survival of the fittest is the only rule. He single-handedly faced off against 3 celestial venerables. The battle lasted 7 days and nights. He won, but he was almost in a state of death. The magic pattern shattered, but the white hair is dyed red. A demon Lord John dressed in luxurious attire. It ran so badly it was barely recognizable. He floated there in the void of the Chaotic Star Sea, covered in wounds. It is also vague, but he did not stop, because that thread of cause and effect remains, faintly, almost imperceptibly, pulling him along, in one direction, further and further ahead. He kept walking, one after another, one unavoidable. Time in the turbulent space-time flow is distorted. Perhaps only a few days have passed on Blue Star, but he lived through a full 1,000 years. He was alone, traversing endless star seas and Wei Mian for 1,000 years. 1,000 years away. His cultivation had been cultivated through countless life and death battles, driven to the limit of the celestial venerable realm by the magic power. 1,000 years away. His appearance did not change in the slightest, but the light in his eyes changed. No longer hatred, no longer madness, but rather an almost obsessive obsession. Find him. We must find him, no matter the cost. On a certain day in the lower 1,000 years, the thread of cause and effect suddenly became stronger, so intense that her entire soul was shaking. She tore open the last unfaced arm length. I saw a blue planet. She sensed a familiar aura that made her want to cry. Then she saw her, in the ruins, covered in blood, barely clinging to life, facing a nascent soul mirror demon beast. Clearly, he could have escaped at any moment, but he stood there like a fool, ready to fight desperately. Just like before, it's always been like this, always pushing yourself toward a dead end. At that moment, she held back tears for 1,000 years. Finally, the dam broke. Senior brother, why did you lie to Ling Shuang? Please, don't leave Ling Shuang. I didn't want to answer him, but I couldn't speak. His body could no longer hold on. The internal product of the earthly terrain heaven. It shattered most of my internal organs. On top of that, the backlash from burning the longevity source. At this moment, I am like a lamp. Most of my internal organs. On top of that, the backlash from burning the longevity source. At this moment, I am like a lamp. The oil lamp burning out is nearly extinguished. Going against the clock is blurred. Vision was dim. The last thing that caught my eye, it was his dry, reddened eyes, and that bright red magic mark on her brow. After the live signal was restored, everyone only knew about that earth-level demon beast. He was killed on the spot by a mysterious force. Apart from a few surviving members of the Chicken Demon Bureau present, the mysterious young man and the white-haired woman both disappeared. Lin Tian trembled all over as he got up, looking at the cracks in the sky that have already healed. Her lips trembled for a long time. He finally managed to squeeze out a sentence. What kind of monster is this? I was woken up by warm liquid dripping onto my face. Open your eyes. Dim light. wooden ceilings. The air carried a fresh scent of grass and trees, holding a certain cold, piercing plum blossom fragrance I am very familiar with. I turned my head. My whole body ached. Bones, internal organs, tendons, and meridians. Not a single one of them didn't hurt, but at least he was still alive. Then I saw her. Fallen collars and frosty faces lie beside me. Her head rested on the face of the bed. White hair scattered across the bed. Taking advantage of her pale face, she fell asleep. Tear stains still hung on his face. It's the kind of one who cries while crying. She looked so exhausted she had fallen asleep. Her hands are slender. Her hands were almost transparent, pale, tightly clutching my sleeve, clenched tightly, as if afraid of letting go. I will fade away again. I looked at her for a long time. 9 beams of light outside the window, from dim to bright. This is a small wooden cabin. The 4 walls are built of logs. There are windows. There is a bed. There is a simple setup. There are windows. There is a bed. There is a simple table. Outside the window was a dense forest. You can also hear birdsong and the sound of streams. Far from the city, away from everything. This must be what it conjured, with heavenly respect and means. A small wooden cabin appeared out of thin air. It's not a difficult task. I tried to sense my own body. What was previously brought by burning the source of life? That little restored cultivation. All of it was exhausted in the battle on the 10th day. The me I am now. He had become a low-level cultivator again. But the spiritual energy of Blue Star was slowly spreading into my body, nourishing damaged meridians and organ chi. Although the pace was slow, but it is indeed recovering. I looked down at Lauren Shuang. Her magic patterned robe was covered in many wounds. Not from the battle on the 10th day. It looks more like the marks of wear and tear from long-term exposure to harsh environments. She had several healed scars on her hands. A cultivator of the heavenly venerable mirror. How could there be healed scars on her body? Unless those injuries were so severe that even the celestial venerable mirror could recover. None of these can be completely eliminated. I don't know what he went through, but just those scars alone were enough to make me afraid to think about it. He woke up. Maybe he sensed my gaze. Her eyelashes trembled as she slowly opened them. Their eyes met mine. The two of them quietly watched each other. Then he suddenly sat up, and was at a loss for what to do. The mighty heavenly venerable, the mirror maiden, and the demon lord. At this moment, her face was flushed, panicked, not knowing where to put his hands. You're awake. Are you hungry? Wow, I will. Don't even mention it. His body froze. It was as if it had been frozen in place. After a long moment, he slowly turned his head. I will. Lin Shuang. Her body froze. It was as if it had been frozen in place. After a long moment, he slowly turned his head. Tears glistened in his eyes. You already know. She said nothing. He just slowly squatted down. Squatting by my bedside, she buried her face in her arms. His shoulders were shaking. Lin Shuang is not. It was Lin Shuang who was wrong. Lin Shuang shouldn't hate her senior brother. Lin Shuang killed her senior brother. Lin Shuang deserves to die. I reached out my hand. It was placed on her head. Her body trembled slightly. Then he froze. It feels like this touch. The feeling of this hand resting on her head. It awakened a distant memory. 300 years ago, every time he woke up crying from a nightmare. That's how I am. Put your hand on his head. Then he said, don't be afraid. Senior brother is here. Now, 300 years have passed. My hand was still in that spot. He cried, from muffled sobbing to uncontrollable tears. A full 1,300 years of grievances, regret, missing, fear. Everything was washed out at this moment. I didn't say anything. Just stroke his hair again and again. Just like before, he cried for a very, very long time. Just as the sun slowly set outside the window. When he finally had enough to cry. When he looked up at me. His swollen eyes. My sleeve was soaked through with his tears. Senior brother, why didn't you tell me earlier? Cannot be explained. Some things can't be said until the very end. Is it that thing called the system? How do you know about the sense of the system? When searching souls, do you look at the red stuff? How do you know about the sense of the system? I saw some during the soul search. In that elder's memory, there is a scene where you are conversing with an invisible object. Although I couldn't see that thing, but you can feel that you are receiving some kind of command. Yes, system. Something that threw me into the Luoyun continent. He gave me a task. I completed the task. Then you can return to Blue Star. Back to my world. All tasks, including betraying the sect, combined with the demonic path, stealing the immortal sword, or even die at your hands in the end. It was all arranged by him. Well, what you did to Wounded. And his old collar was wounded. Protect the wounded neck. Grant the injured to leave an opportunity for the task. Those are not arranged by the system. Those were made by myself. Every time. It is. His tears were about to fall again. I quickly caught up with the drama ending. Don't cry. If you keep crying, I won't have a change of clothes. He burst out laughing. Halfway through laughing, he held it back again. He turned into a strange, half crying, half laughing expression. It looks really bad, but it was still really good. After that, we talked a lot. I told her everything. System, time travel, Blue Star, Auntie, all of it. She listened quietly. No interruption. After listening, she was silent for quite a while. Then he said something that surprised me. That voice. Guide Ling Shuang to find your voice. What if she was part of this arrangement? What do you mean? Ling Shuang has traveled through the New Sea for 1,000 years. Traveling through 1,000 years. Every tear is a way to avoid obstacles. It consumes tremendous power. And every time, it inevitably tears apart. The barriers between the two worlds will become thinner. If there is something. He wanted to use Ling Shuang to open a passage between the two worlds. That voice is the best bait. My back felt cold. What he said makes sense. That makes perfect sense. The mysterious voice that guided him to find me, aged and profound, as if from ancient times. If he hadn't kindly guided the way, or is it purposefully guided by him? What is the purpose? The fallen color cream that the heavens revere for its top color cream, continuously tearing apart unseen barriers, opening a passage for a certain entity to descend upon Blue Star. This speculation sent chills down my spine. But now is not the time to investigate these matters. Right now, the most important thing is this: find my aunt. I told Luo Lingshuang about the situation. She said one thing. When Lingshuang debuted on Blue Star, he once used divine stones to sweep across thousands of miles. The Sioux city you mentioned, the surface was indeed occupied by demon beasts, but underground, there is a human presence. He's still alive. You sure? Confirm. Although it was blocked by some kind of spiritual barrier, but the frost spirit stone can pierce through. At least 1,000 people are underground. Is there any of that? Ling Shuang doesn't know your aunt. He couldn't tell the difference. But since someone is alive, there is hope. I hope for that moment. These 2 words are more effective than any miracle cure. In the following months, I have been recuperating and cultivating in this little wooden cabin. Luo Lingshuang's cultivation was suppressed by the Blue Star Heavenly Tao to the refining void realm. She shielded the 100-mile radius with divine stones. No creature can enter. This commander of all demons, the ruthless and decisive demon Jade Empress. But now, she had become a young wife caring for her mortal husband. Because now, I really am almost like a mortal. She cooked for me every day in a variety of ways. Although she couldn't cook at all. What he made was basically dark cuisine, but she wouldn't let me say it tasted bad. He helped me change my dressing, although he didn't control the strength of his hand very well. One careless move squeezed the gauze until I grimaced in pain. He stayed by my side while I was cultivating, although he couldn't do anything, but he insisted on holding on. Just sit right next to me. He sat all day long. Sometimes I sneak a glance at him. He would take advantage of when I wasn't paying attention, reach out and touch my hair. Then he quickly retracted. That kind of expression. I was stiff and hadn't done anything. This 1300 years old demon lord. Really cute. Days passed like this, day after day. The abundance of spiritual energy on Blue Star far exceeded my expectations. My body was constantly absorbing spiritual energy. His cultivation steadily increased. By the 3rd month, I have reached the peak of the new Dan, equivalent to a commander level ability user on Blue Star. The recovery speed is astonishing. After all, the vessel of heaven's respect is right there. Just fill the light with spiritual power. His body was basically healed. It's time to set off. Sioux City is about 800 kilometers from the river and sea. It was once a bustling coastal city. It is about 800 kilometers from the river and sea. It was once a bustling coastal city. The population exceeds 1 million, but now, it was a dead city. Lorraine and I looked down from above. The entire city was covered by a layer of demon beasts. The exterior walls of high-rise buildings are covered with black military thread-like material. Abandoned vehicles and unknown wreckage are piled up on the streets. The air was thick with a foul stench of decay and demonic energy. Occasionally, you can see demon beasts wandering among the ruins. There are both commander and yellow rank, but in front of Luo Lingshuang, all scum. The demon beasts encountered along the way, whether it's a commander-level mutant giant, and it was a yellow-grade abyssal pearl demon, he destroyed them all with a single flick. When they reached the core area of Sioux City, it finally had a clearer sense. Go down 800 meters underground. There was a space isolated by spiritual power. We break through the ground and crawl down. 800 meters underground. It is a vast man-made space. It is a renovated giant underground laboratory. The lights were dim, but you can see many simple dwellings and living areas. And there are still people. Over 1,000 people. They looked at her in terror, watching Lorraine and me descend from the hole in the ceiling. Especially Lauren Shuang. A black robe with demonic patterns, with hair white as snow. A dark red demon pattern on the brow. In the eyes of these ordinary people, it was no different from ancient demons and monsters. Those with special abilities. It was the supernatural invaders. Everyone on alert. A man in his 30s rushed to the front. He was wearing a uniform so dirty it was barely recognizable. His face was exhausted, but his gaze was sharp. A faint spiritual glow shimmered on his hand. A man of extraordinary spirit and extraordinary ability. Xiao Wenyuan. He used to be a police officer. After the demon beast invasion, awakened the spiritual energy isolation talent. It was his talent. Isolate the entire underground city from the surface. Give up to over 1,000 survivors. He evaded the surge of the demon beasts, but the price was a huge consumption of spiritual energy. At this moment, he looked extremely weak. His face was pale. Clearly, the spiritual energy was nearly depleted. We are not enemies. Who are you? How did you get in? My name is Chen Huiyan. Come looking for someone. My aunt Jiangyi Shue. Possibly among you. Xiao Wenyuan was momentarily stunned. Jiangyi Shue. You right? The sister who was always asking about news of her missing nephew. My heart skipped a beat. Exist. She was alive with her aunt. Take me to see her. Wait a moment. How exactly did you get through my spiritual power isolation? Xiao Wenyuan's gaze was fixed intently on Lauren Shuang. Although she suppressed her cultivation disguise into the core scheme, that is, the level of an imperial level ability user. But Xiao Wenyuan still sensed something. An indescribable sense of oppression. Her intuition told her, this woman is no ordinary person. It's far from just being an emperor level official, because she is very strong. I answered simply. Xiao Wenyuan was silent for a few seconds. In the end, He didn't press further. She leads us through the passages of the underground city, winding through 7 twists and turns. He arrived at the door of a small room tucked away in the corner. Right here. I took a deep breath. He pushed open the door. The room is very small. There was only a simple bed and a chair. A woman sat on the bed. She will open the door. The room is very small. There was only a simple bed and a chair. A woman sat on the bed. She lost weight. Too much weight has been lost. But I recognized those eyes. From childhood to adulthood. Every morning when he wakes me up. Every night. When you stuff your back foot into me. Every time we held a parent-teacher meeting. It's all these eyes watching me. Small. Auntie. She looked up. The moment you saw me. Her whole body trembled. Why? Yang. It's me, Auntie. I'm back. She was stunned for several seconds, then suddenly lunged out of bed. He threw himself into my arms. He wailed loudly. She cried while pounding my chest. Not very strong, but every blow struck my heart. Sorry, Auntie, sorry. Behind him, Luo Lingshuang stood quietly. She watched the scene. His eyes reddened as well. Later, after my aunt's emotions settled, I introduced her to Luo Ling cream. Auntie is getting the cream. It's me. My reasoning. Oh wait. Girlfriend. Luo Lingshuang's eyes widened. What is a girlfriend? But she still understood what he meant. No, it is incorrect. When did she agree? This bad senior brother. But in front of his aunt, she couldn't really argue. Auntie held Luo Lingshuang's hand. The lights up and down for a long time. Then, with red eyes, he smiled. It looks great. Huayan is blessed with good fortune. Luo Lingshuang's face turned red from the pain. The mighty Empress of Demon Jade. Luo Lingshuang's face turned red from the pain. The mighty Empress of Demon Jade. Her face flushed red from being praised by an ordinary aunt. That one. Mother. My aunt was momentarily stunned. Then he burst out laughing. All right. Good kid. I watched this scene from the side. His heart felt warm. This has been for about 300 years. It was the warmest moment. Auntie is safe. But Su Cheng's thousands of survivors. You can't stay underground forever. Xiao Wenyuin's spiritual energy was nearly exhausted. Isolation talents can disappear at any moment. Once the isolation is lost, the surface beasts would swarm in. We must clear Su Cheng's demon beast. Leave this matter to me and Lorraine Shuang. Luo Lingshuang suppressed her cultivation to the level of the original sound realm. Any higher may attract unnecessary attention. Even so, Su Cheng's demon beasts were nothing more than scraps and dogs in front of her. I fought alongside her. It took 3 days to completely wipe out all the demon beasts on Su Cheng's surface, with hundreds of people of all sizes, even the yellow-level demon beast lurking in the city center. We joined forces to kill him. Xiao Wenyuan watched from afar. His mouth opened and closed again. After closing, they opened again. What kind of monsters are these two people? After the Puritan religion was completed, I contacted Jiyu Mengyao. Su Cheng was safe. There are thousands of survivors who need to evacuate. There was several seconds of silence on the other end of the line. What? You mean Su Cheng? The Su Cheng designated as an S-level restricted zone. Yes. What kind of joke are you kidding? There were at least 3 yellow-gray demon beasts there. No one dared to send anyone from above. Finish the process. Come pick him up. A long silence. Then came a sigh. All right. I'll take the car over there. When Jiyu Mengyao came to pick her up, 20 military trucks were brought along. She saw Luo Lingshuang. I watched for quite a while. Then his gaze became subtle. This woman. White hair, magic pattern, that suffocating oxygen. The day described to Lin Tian. It appeared over Jiankai City. The mysterious woman's features matched perfectly. Jiyu Mengyao didn't expose it, but the way she looked at me changed. From curiosity to Shen's situation. This man and this woman. What exactly is his background? I instructed her to keep our presence a secret. She agreed. Over 1,000 survivors. He was safely transferred to Jiankai City. I rented an apartment in Jiankai City. Settled my aunt in. The first day my aunt moved into the new house, he pulled me and Luo Lingshuang to sit down. He kept rambling on and on with a bunch of instructions. Punish them for safety. Don't just keep fighting and killing like that. Eat well and don't stay up late. Then she looked at me. He glanced at Luo Lingshuang again. Huayan, this girl really treats you well. You mustn't let him down. Hurry up and finish the main business. And what is the most important matter? What serious matters could they possibly do? Getting married. I almost spat out water. Luo Lingshuang was even more exaggerated. He stood up directly. Her face flushed down to the base of her neck. The 1,300-year-old Mosen, pressured by a mortal aunt to get married, she was left speechless. I held back my laughter and didn't dare laugh out loud. In the days that followed, Lauren Shuang and I live in Jiankai City. I dare to laugh out loud. In the days that followed, Lauren Shuang and I settled down in Jiankai City. She learned to use a mobile phone. Although he often confuses WeChat with the camera, she learned to use a washing machine. The first time I used it, I put in a whole bottle of laundry detergent. Foam overflowed from the washing machine. It flooded half the balcony. She also learned to watch TV. Loves watching Animal Worlds the most, because those little demon beasts are so dumb. Occasionally, He would sneak up on me at night. Just when he thought I was asleep, he gently kissed me on the cheek. Then he quickly retracted, pretending nothing happened. But he didn't know. I was awake the whole time. 1,300 years of longing. He was still so cautious, as if afraid of scaring away something precious. The calm days did not last long. The spiritual energy revival was accelerating. Spiritual veins across Blue Star. It was as if someone had flipped a switch. Spiritual energy surged wildly. Heaven and earth frequently exhibited strange phenomena. Colorful clouds returned to the sun. The sacred dog lasts forever. The earth's veins cracked and split. Scenes that only appeared in ancient times began to emerge one after another. Ancient cultivators from 1,000 years of film and television have all emerged from seclusion. Kunlun Mountain, Longhu Mountain, Zhongnan Mountain. Suddenly, a large number of film and television masters have emerged from these legendary cultivation holy sites. Most of them are righteous. Their cultivation varied from cause to fusion. But there was also a group of ancient demonic cultivators sealed deep within the ley lines of Blue Star. He then regained consciousness. They were being sealed by the righteous path in ancient times. Now, the seal has loosened due to the surge in spiritual energy. The first thing after seeing the light of day again, seizing spiritual veins, enslaving mortals. The official Chicken Demon Bureau faced these real cultivators in front of a true cultivator, just like a toothy mustache. A demonic cultivator named Lian Jing, claiming to be the blood-clad ancestor, struck first. He occupied a spiritual vein near Jiankai City. He slaughtered the assistant's Chicken Demon Bureau squad. Ji Mengyao led the team to Xing Yuan and was seriously injured. Xiao Wenyuan risked his life to protect him as he retreated. He also lost an arm. When the news arrived, Luo Lingshuang and I were having dinner. My aunt made braised pork ribs. I put down my chopsticks. Come on. Luo Lingshuang also put down her chopsticks. Auntie called out from behind. You haven't finished yet. Sorry, Auntie. I'll eat the ribs when I get back. When we arrived at the location of the spiritual vein, the blood-clad patriarch was sitting cross-legged above the spiritual vein, absorbing spiritual energy. Around her were more than a dozen corpses of members of the Chicken Demon drama. Young faces. A twisted expression. It must have been very painful before. The blood-clad ancestor sensed our arrival. Open your eyes. She looked at me. The spiritual power fluctuations at the peak of the golden core stage. He glanced at Luo Lingshuang again. He was surrounded by a strong demonic aura. She gave a playful smile. The little girl said fiercely. She stood up. Her blood-red robe rustled fiercely in the night wind. The pressure of the void refining realm was unleashed from the heavens and earth. Kneel and let me take charge. I'll spare your life. Lorraine showed no expression on either side. He glanced at him just once. Then he said a word, and died. He didn't make a move. He didn't even release any visible cultivation techniques or spells. He only released a trace of the true pressure of the heavenly venerable demon sect. The blood-clad ancestor's smile froze on his face. A trace of true celestial venerable demon sect pressure. The blood-clad ancestor's smile froze on his face. His body began to tremble uncontrollably. Ordinary knelt down. Her Dao heart shattered directly under this pressure. Even Xu Xin appeared before Qianzuan. He didn't even have the qualifications to look up to him. Who are you, really? She couldn't even utter a complete sentence. Luo Lingshuang kept pointing at the body of the blood-clothed ancestor. Along with her primordial spirit, she turned into foot powder, drifting in the night wind, clean and efficient, leaving no trouble behind. I watched this scene from the side. No wonder she's my little junior sister, the Demon Lord. But Luo Lingshuang just pouted. It seems he wasn't quite satisfied with this nickname. Oh, right. No wonder she's my wife. She pinched me hard. Only then did Jay proudly grab my hand. After this battle, Luo Lingshuang and I took the opportunity to lightly disrupt the remnants of the blood-clad ancestor's forces. Those ancient Morshio who awakened with him, or be wiped out. Either kneel and surrender. Meanwhile, while continuously hunting demonic beasts and absorbing spiritual veins and energy, my cultivation has already returned to the peak of the cause. Ji Mengyao and Xiao Wenyuan witnessed the whole process of Qing stirring with their own eyes. Xiao Wenyuan's broken arm. Luo Linshuang casually caught it. He used a bone-cutting technique that is extremely common on the Luoyun continent. Xiao Wenyuan was left with his eyes wide open. Ji Mengyao finally couldn't help but ask that question. Who exactly are you? I glanced at Luo Lingshuang. She glanced back at me. He tacitly agreed. So I gave Ji Mengyao and Xiao Wenyuan a general explanation. Too many details are hidden. Just say I come from another cultivation world. Cultivation far surpasses the ranks of Blue Star. Luo Lingshuang follows the same principle. Their expression levels are divided. Luo Lingshuang follows the same principle. Their expressions looked like they'd seen a ghost. In the end, Ji Mengyao did not report it. Instead, he reached a private agreement with me. He covers our presence at the official level. I was secretly dealing with a threat that the Sengma Theater was powerless to respond. Xiao Wenyuan became one of the few trusted comrades on Blue Star. Although this guy's cultivation wasn't high, but he was upright and reliable. I began secretly guiding his cultivation. But some things can't be kept low-key just because you want to. A few days later, an old man came looking for him. White hair and white beard, with the spirit of the way at the forefront. The fluctuations of spiritual power and body calm on his body. One of the strongest modifications on Blue Star. The Elder of Kunlun. He was polite but direct. I'm not here to inspect. This is a warning. He looked at Luo Lingshuang. His eyes were filled with deep worry. This, not for good. Matter. It was a sign that the Blue Star heavenly Tao itself was beginning to decline. Luo Lingshuang looked at him coldly. No response. I stood between the two of them. Elder, Give us some time. I will investigate the cause thoroughly. The elder of Kunlun sighed. I have lived for 3,000 years. Never have I seen the heavenly Tao so fragile. If you don't quickly uncover the truth, this realm is the city of myriad spirits. All were to be buried alongside him. After saying this, she turned and left. Luo Lingxuang and I exchanged a glance. It seems an even bigger storm is yet to come. Less than 3 days after the Kunlun elder left. And here it is, within the mountain range of Changbai Mountain. A terrifying demonic aura surged into the sky. It completely melted the chicken blood within a 100-mile radius. An ancient guardian spirit beast nurtured by the blue star heavenly Tao. Nine-tailed demon fox. Awakened. After transforming into human form, she became an exceptionally beautiful woman. 9 silver-white tails stretched out like fans behind him. And the peak of body tranquility, second only to the celestial venerable. After sensing Luo Lingxuang's aura, she appeared immediately. The goal is not provocation, but rather an interrogation. 1. Then you. A great battle was inevitable. The nine-tailed demon fox was extremely powerful. Illusions and unpredictable techniques were unfathomable, even with Luo Lingxuang's cultivation, suppressed by the blue star heavenly Tao at the void refining realm. But the heavenly venerable's Tao Fortune Foundation, still far beyond ordinary people. Their clash was torn apart. The sky stretches for 100 miles. I was shadowed from the side. A magic specifically designed to counter the nine-tailed fox demon. A celestial venerable level Genshin impact perception. It allows me to clearly distinguish between real and fake. In battle, I discovered the nine-tailed demon fox showed no intent to kill. His attacks left room for maneuver. It was more like a test and a warning. I called for Luo Lingxuang to stop. Wait a moment. He has no intention of killing you. Luo Lingxuang frowned, but he still stopped. The nine-tailed demon fox was panting. The silver tail drooped slightly. Indeed. I just wanted to see for myself. How skilled is this visitor from outside? Then things got even more troublesome. The ancient iron set in the northwest desert has also awakened. The fusion ultimately instinctively devours all things. It devoured the forest veins of several small towns along the way, heading straight for Luo Lingxuang's aura. Luo Lingxuang and I joined forces to stop him. This battle was far more brutal than the one fought by the nine-tailed fox. Dao Tai is a purely combat-oriented beast, the kind that doesn't matter. In the end, I communicated with him as the celestial venerable Dao Fei, and only then was he pacified and pacified. On both heads, fierce beasts perched. They are all guardians of the blue star's heavenly Tao fate domain. They did not awaken to attack the falling spirit Frost. He sensed that the blue star heavenly Tao was being attacked by something. They did not awaken to attack the falling spirit Frost. He sensed that the blue star heavenly Tao was being eroded by some external force. Instinctively, he saw Luo Lingxuang as a threat. The nine-tailed fox demon told me a key piece of information. The blue star heavenly Tao is not naturally exhausted. He was being extracted. Every time a crack appears, will take away part of the blue star's heavenly Tao's origin. And when these cracks first appeared, he glanced at me. It was exactly 3 years ago. The moment I traveled through time 3 years ago, I met Luo Lingxuang's gaze. Both of them looked very grim. Crossing system missions. Luo Lingxuang searched for 1,000 years. All seemingly coincidental events are intertwined. A terrifying silhouette emerged. That system was never just an auxiliary tool. He used me and also used Luo Lingxuang. Every time, he tore through the barrier before facing it. All of them are opening a passage for some being to descend upon Blue Star. I told Luo Lingxuang my deductions. He was silent for a long time. That voice guiding Lingxuang to find you. What if he is also part of the system? The answer is clear. I found the answer in the depths of the Pacific Ocean with a spiritual eye. A deliberately hidden spatial anchor. The aura on the anchor point. It was the imprint the system left inside me. It has not disappeared. Instead, it shifted to the core of the Blue Star Heavenly Tao. Like a nail driven into Blue Star's lifeline. Continuously extracting the source. Facing straight toward Dubai. The system's true identity is the will of the Heavenly Tao of the Luoyun continent. The Tao fortune of the falling cloud Heavenly Tao gradually declined over billions of years. It needs to devour other unavoidable Heavenly Taos to sustain itself. Blue Star became its target. I am a pawn chosen by it. Give me the system. Drive me with missions. Let me accumulate karma on the Luoyun continent. Then send her back to Blue Star after death as the anchor point. The 1,000-year search for the drop collar cream is key. Every tear creates a barrier. All of them were tearing open a larger passage for the Luoyun Heavenly Tao. That mysterious voice had always been the work of the Luoyun Heavenly Tao. The moment I pulled out the anchor point, the weather has changed. A golden rift split across the sky above the Pacific Ocean. It was 10,000 times larger than the passage Luo Lingxuang had torn apart. A vast, almost awe-inspiring passage was 10,000 times larger. A vast, hopeless pressure surrounds them, pouring out from the cracks. Not the power of any living being. It was the will of the Heavenly Tao of the entire world. In the descent of concreteness, the true form of the Luoyun Heavenly Tao has arrived. It has no fixed form. It was a mass of golden chaos that devoured light, covering half the sky. All living beings on Blue Star felt the suffocating oppression. Ordinary people faint. The low-level cultivator spat blood. The Blue Star Heavenly Tao is already a demon of powerful crossbows. Devour this sword. It is my only choice. At that moment, Luo Lingxuang's cultivation suppression completely vanished. The Blue Star's Heavenly Tao has weakened to the point of no longer maintaining any shackles. All the power revered by heaven returned to his body. The demonic patterns burst forth with a terrifying blood-red light. He gripped the henching sword tightly. He stood beside me. Senior brother. This time, Ling Shuang is with you. The most brutal battle in Blue Star's history. The nine-tailed fox demon fox unleashed its full force of iron armor. The guardian spirit beast is in the Blue Star heavenly Tao. At the brink of annihilation, he unleashed his last strength. The elder of Kunlun led the Blue Star. All ancient righteous cultivators resisted with formations. Xiao Wenyuan and Ji Mengyao led the team. Chicken demon drama evacuates mortals. To hold back from the perimeter, the heavenly alliance beast herd split off from the Luoyun heavenly Tao. But the real main battlefield, it belongs only to two people. I stood shoulder to shoulder with the fallen collar Frost. For 300 years, we have relied on each other. And for 300 years we will be enemies. 1,000 years of separation. Now, at last, they are on the same side. Luo Yuntiandao tried to break down our will. He showed Luo Lingshuang the full picture of every betrayal I had back then. Stealing the Chinese paladin and joining forces with the demonic path to deliberately lure it away. See? He used you. Luo Lingshuang shattered those illusions with a single sword strike. The true deity's hatred and love are not for your wisdom. He then showed me the bloody scene of Luo Lingshuang's 1,000-year slaughter. He destroyed sects, slew cultivators, and slashed the Red Sea of Stars. See? He's no longer the junior sister you know. I laughed. I know what he looks like myself. No need for you to remind me. I am the righteous ancestor. Whether the way or not, the ancestor is not false. But my wife is a demon lord. What good could I possibly be? The palace style of the Luoyun heavenly Tao was overwhelming. The golden chaos surged like raging waves in a raging sea. Wave after wave of attacks came crashing in. Each wave contained enough power to destroy. An unmet terrifying force. I am known for fighting to the death in battle. The framework of the celestial venerable mirror in Genshin impact. Under the influx of Blue Star's spiritual energy, a strong resonance begins. Those sleeping Tao fortunes. A foreign realm. Cultivation method. At the brink of life and death, pushed to the limit. His cultivation was soaring wildly, refining the beard to fuse the body. Dajun was jealous and concealed, until that long-lost threshold appeared before him. Heaven reveres it. Luo Lingshuang sensed my change. He did so without hesitation. Used the power of the demon lord to protect my hair. Luo Yuntian bore the brunt alone. Wave after wave of thunderous noise. His magic patterns shattered. Blood stained the white hair. His dark robe was torn to shreds. But he didn't back down. Senior brother, hurry up. I closed my eyes. Genshin impact resonates with heaven and earth. Memories of cultivation from his previous life surged back like a flood. Heaven, my respected self has returned. I opened my eyes as well. A long sword condensed in his hand. The entire body is silver white. The blade was covered with patterns of the laws of the heavenly Tao. Not to give him the immortal sword. It is a life-bound immortal sword refined from my own Tao destiny. The immortal lord and the demon lord drew their swords side by side. 10 billion black swords intertwined into a spiral. It tore apart Luo Yun's chaotic true body. He let out a roar that shook mountains and rivers. A furious counterattack. The fighting lasted for several whole months. The landscape of Blue Star has been rewritten. The ocean is surging with towering waves. The mainland sector is trembling. In the end, I took the heavenly venerable Tao fate as my subject. Luo Lingshuang was tempered by the power of the demon lord. The two of them joined forces to restore the origin of the Luoyun heavenly Tao. Separated from Blue Star, sealed and returned to the cloud continent. It severed all passages between the two realms. The falling cloud heavenly Tao let out its final cry, pushed back into her own world. The cost was equally severe. The Blue Star heavenly Tao exhausted its last source in the catastrophe, completely reduced to nothingness. The shackles of the heavenly Tao no longer exist. From then on, Blue Star's spiritual energy flowed freely. There is no longer a ceiling for decoration. A true major overhaul with free flow. There is no longer a ceiling for decoration. A true era of great cultivation. It began. After the war, Blue Star was devastated, yet vitality still remains. The Kunlun elder took the lead in rebuilding order. Xiao Wenyuan was chosen as the core character of the scheming magic drama. Ji Mengyao breaks through a bottleneck during the catastrophe, stepping into the nascent soul realm. Mortals do not fully understand what is happening, but everyone remembers that day. Black and white intertwined in the sky revealed light. My aunt was safe and sound. After the battle, she held my hand with Lorraine Shuang. He kept reminding us to stay safe. Then he urged again, hurry up and finish the main business. Lorraine Shuang blushed for once. I laughed and forced myself to do it. One evening a month later, Lorraine Shuang and I returned to that small cabin in the forest, when she took care of me when I was unconscious. The one that appeared out of thin air. The setting sun filtered through the leaves, casting its white hair, dyeing it with a warm layer of gold. She leaned on my shoulder. Peace is hard to find. Lin Shuang. Sorry. Her body froze. Lift your head, look at me. These are the 3 words she has waited 1,300 years for. Back then, in the final battle on the Luoyun continent, she pinched my chin and kissed me. I never said it out loud. And the apology from Jianli wrote earlier. In the end, life and death are separated. It doesn't count. What did you say? Her voice trembled. Sorry, you've suffered. I reached out and ruffled her hair, just like 300 years ago at Xiantian sect. Also, thank you for coming to me. Lauren Shuang's tears silently slid down. She didn't cry out loud, just clutching my sleeve tightly. If you let go, you will lose it here. A long time passed. She finally muttered in a muffled voice, you still owe me a wedding. I laughed. Alright, a few months later, under my aunt's arrangement, it was under Xiao Wen Yuan, with Jiyu Mengyao and several close friends as witnesses. A simple wedding was held in the mountains. Luo Lingshuang wore a red wedding dress personally chosen by her aunt. The magic mark on her brow no longer looked cold under the red dress. Instead, it resembles a blooming red eyebrow. She was so nervous the whole time that she didn't know where to put her hands. A 1,300-year-old demon lord. At that moment, she looked like an 18-year-old bride. I held her hand and said something. Mother. I held her hand and said something. Very light. Only she could hear it. From now on, senior brother isn't going anywhere. Her tears fell again, but this time, it fell with a smile. On the third day after the wedding, I sensed something unusual during cultivation. After the Tiandao family disappeared, between Blue Star and the Luoyun continent, facing obstacles is extremely fragile. And above these two worlds, a brand new spatial passage is slowly taking shape. The aura surging from the passage, incredibly ancient. The spiritual energy was abundant, far exceeding the combined total of Blue Star and Luoyun continent. I used the divine sense of heaven to probe into the passage. The scene I saw, it made me freeze all over. An infinitely vast ruin of the immortal palace. On the stone table lay a chessboard. There are countless pieces on the board. Two of the black and white pieces side by side glowed faintly. The black piece contains all the mountains, rivers, and stars of the Luoyun continent, but the white piece is the azure planet of Blue Star. The two worlds are just two pieces on a chessboard, and on the chessboard, there are thousands of pieces. The number of 10 or more by the chessboard was empty. The dust covered in the dust explains. The player has been gone for a very, very long time. Even the immortal hall was reduced to ruins. Senior brother, what did you see? Luo Lingshuang noticed my abnormality. He walked over. I was silent for a moment. Then he held his hand. Lingshuang, do you want to know? What exactly is our world? She looked down at our fingers interlocked. Then lift your head. In his eyes was a light that led to the unknown. A faint smile slowly curled at the corner of his mouth. It wasn't the demon lord's cold sneer. It was the smile of that little junior sister from back then. Where are you going? Senior brother. Lingshuang is heading there. I turned to look at my aunt. Jiang Yishua stood at the door of the wooden cabin, holding a robe that had fallen from Luo Lingshuang's arms. Her eyes reddened, but he still smiled and waved his hand. Don't make your wife wait. Remember to come back. I bowed deeply. Then stand shoulder to shoulder with Luo Lingshuang. He stepped into the beam of light leading to the upper realm. The moment the passage closed, a burst of laughter so ancient it couldn't be traced, faintly coming from the depths of the immortal hall. Like a chess player, finally, someone opened the chessboard.